The following is a presentation of the Missouri Sports Network.
Hey, welcome back to Missouri Sports Network, MissouriSportsNetwork.com, where everyone has a home field advantage. It's state championship week here, and we go to Fairgrove High School and visit with Class 3 girls state champions head coach for the Fairgrove Lady Eagles, Jenny Talbert. Coach Talbert, thanks so much for your time today.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
You guys are on spring break there, so we'll try and catch up with some of the players here later, maybe next week. But Coach, it still hadn't worn off yet, has it?
No, definitely hasn't. I think just being on spring break too, like not being at school this week at work, it's kind of weird. Like it still seems a little surreal that it all happened over the weekend, but still really excited when I go back and watch any videos or look at pictures. Just hard to believe it.
Well, coming into this season, last year 17-9, you lose one senior off of last year's team. You come into this year and a very tough schedule, and it always starts off with your own home tournament, and you could come out of there 0-3. With the
Right.
likes of the teams that are in there, you guys go through that tournament. West Plains gets you, I think, at the end. But at what point during the season did you kind of feel like, hey, we may have an opportunity here to make a run?
I mean, for the first half of the year before Christmas, like that West Plains game, obviously we didn't win it, but I think that was good for us we competed in that. We actually had a lead and then kind of fell off late. And maybe some of our youth and inexperience showed. But we grew a lot from that loss. And then going forward, we had we played in a tournament at Mountain Home after Christmas, played some tough competition, Farmington, Arkansas, who just won a state title in Arkansas. And that was a lot of adversity for us. We lost 2 games back to back, which we hadn't done in a while. But I think from that moment, it kind of pushed us forwards. We went on a nice run of winning a lot of games after those losses in Arkansas. And then our last loss was against Skyline on February 2nd. We played them in a conference game. We'd beaten them once, and the girls definitely didn't overlook them, but we just didn't have the same fire when we played them. And we ended up losing by 3, and that was definitely a turning point. We really locked in talking about defense and rebounding and just how those things we have to have every night. And if we don't, you're going to have a lot more of these losses. And we implemented a few new drills to focus in on defense and rebounding, and we started doing those drills every single day. And I think they worked because we really played great defense after that loss going through the end of the season and all through the postseason.
Well, you look at just the last 10 or 12 games. You have to play Skyline twice. You have to play El Dorado Springs twice. You've got Stratford twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, talk about how that prepared you for that run into the state championship.
Yeah, after that loss to Skyline, I think we went on a roll of having to play Eldo, Ava, St. James, another really good Class 4 team, Stratford. I mean, that was perfect for us. I think a lot of people would have looked at that schedule and thought, why are you doing this? Playing all these schools. But that's exactly what we needed. And we knew that our path, if we wanted to make a state run, it was going to be hard. We knew we were going to have to go through Stratford. We knew we were going to have to play, the possibility of playing a team like Diamond or Mansfield again, because we'd already played them once. And we knew ultimately if we wanted another shot at Skyline, we needed to get to the Final Four. And I know that after we lost to them, my assistants and I knew that was a possibility. We didn't really talk to the girls about it, but we knew that we would like to have another chance at playing Skyline. So I think those games at the end of the season really set us up well. I mean, obviously, they were tough opponents. They were all on the road except for the game against St. James. We played everybody at their own home floor, which I think also was good for us. And the girls just really, I mean, they stepped up, and our defense was really, really good.
Did anything surprise you, during this run? Was there something just eye opening? Saying, I didn't know we could do that.
Well, I mean, I think, in the championship game, that's what a lot of people have asked me. Like, you're down by 14, and how'd your girls keep fighting? And I wasn't surprised that they didn't give up. Like they just don't give up. We have a group of girls that they're super competitive. We have 10 kids on the varsity team, and our practices were wars. Like we would have maybe the starters versus the 5 non-starters, and on any given day, the non-starters would beat the starters because that's how competitive those girls are. So I knew that when we were down 14 that, if they would just focus in and get stops, that we could give ourselves a chance. So I think that was probably the growth moment for them, is looking at them in a timeout when we were down by 14 and saying, hey, we worked too hard to just fall over in the championship game. And none of them looked scared. They all were like, yeah, we got this. We're going to get stops, lock in on the defense. And they did. And they chipped away and made it a 4-point game at halftime. And, that was really key for us, that second quarter turnaround.
And I go back to that quarterfinal matchup with Mansfield. That's a 39-37 game. You kind of handled them earlier in the season.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of take us through that, and obviously you see a lot of scores start going down as the deeper you get into the playoffs, because every possession becomes so important.
Right.
Kind of take us through that game on the road I think that was at Warrensburg.
Yeah. That was a battle. I knew going into it that Coach Green over at Mansfield would probably slow it down. Like I just had a feeling that's what he would do, because he knew that that's how we like to play, and we obviously have a lot of depth. But and our girls, that was hard for them to adjust to, because I think a couple of possessions Mansfield had the ball for a minute and a half, 2 minutes, whatever, just literally holding the ball. And so we adjusted, but man, the girls just they buckled down. Again, we had a really key moment. We got a 10-second count in the backcourt against Mansfield late in the fourth. And that was literally just Cameron Green and I think Brooke Daniels, the only two maybe back there. There was a couple girls denying, beyond half court, but that was just them being like, hey, we got to get a stop. So they just guarded their hearts out and got a 10-second count. And there were a lot of little just defensive plays, hustle plays that, made the big difference in that game. Because when it's 39-37, yeah, like you said, every point, every possession was just such a big deal. And we missed a lot of free throws down the stretch, but the moment that stands out the most to me is Brooke Daniels, our sophomore point guard, was at the line for I believe it was a 1-on-1. And we had pulled all our rebounders back because on the previous free throw, we had gotten a foul after the rebound. So we pulled them all back, and it was just Brooke and 4 Mansfield girls, and Brooke missed the free throw but got her own rebound. And I mean, that was huge. That was with 8 seconds to go. So she got 2 more shots, made 1 of 2. And that was the difference in the game. It was, instead of it being a 1-point game, it was a 2-point game. And Brooke actually also tipped the 3-point attempt by Logan Jones at the, near the buzzer. So just some big hustle, like gritty plays. And that's just kind of who those girls are. They're just gritty. They don't quit, and they like to win.
Yeah. And I've had several coaches tell me that quarterfinal game is the toughest game because it's the one that puts you in the Final Four. And,
right.
Mentally, it's just so difficult to deal with. And Coach, now you get El Dorado Springs, 54-52. Tell us just a little bit about the last couple of minutes in that game, because I was sitting courtside and it was freezing.
Yeah, it was. I mean, we gave them a lot of chances there at the end, but I can't remember the exact time. But at one point, we had the ball. We were kind of stalling it out. It was under a minute, and they ended up tying up Abby Green on the perimeter. Jump ball went to them, and on that possession, Macy Mays probably had a look. I was worried she was going to shoot it, and she kicked it out to Alexis Collins, who had hit some big threes for Eldo. Luckily, she missed it. We were able to get the rebound, or the ball went out of bounds. We got the ball. But then on that next possession, they called an offensive foul on our point guard, screening on a press breaker. So then we lost her. They got the ball back again with, I think, 15 seconds to go maybe. We're able to defend them again. It was just a frantic pace. We turned it over. And then finally, with whatever it was, 2-3 seconds to go, they drove, and Abby Green took a charge, and then we just had to get the ball in bounds and hold it. And I just wanted that buzzer to go off. I just couldn't wait for the buzzer to go off.
What was the first thing that went through your mind when you heard
I
the buzzer?
Well, I was just so happy for them. We had watched the Class 3 game, the boys game before us, and I had turned to Carrie Green, who's my assistant, and I said, as those boys were celebrating, winning, I said, "Gosh, I really want our girls to experience that." Like, I didn't want to have to talk to him through sad tears. Like we had talked all postseason about we don't want a sad locker room scene. Like so, refuse to lose. I had some former players all throughout the postseason, girls that I had coached, you know, 10 years ago, writing these motivational letters to the girls. And there's that one Bailey Weaver. She was a former point guard for me. She kind of talked about that, like you don't want a sad locker room scene. Like you have to refuse to lose. And so when those boys were celebrating, that's why I said to Carrie, I was like, gosh, I want our girls to have that level of happiness. So that's all I could see was just their faces jumping. They knocked each other over. They just all fell over at half court. They were so excited.
Who who's the first person you heard from that was not at the game?
Oh gosh, I don't even know because when I finally got back to my phone, I had like over 120 text messages. So it would be impossible to narrow it down to one. But I heard from, a ton of old coaches that either coached me when I was playing, people I've worked with, former players. I mean, tons of Fairgrove people, family members, just a lot of awesome congratulations messages.
Now, this is the first state championship in any sport there at Fair Grove, and so a lot of equity there. And what was it like when you got back into town?
Oh, well, when we got back into town, our athletic director had told, the community when we were arriving. So we had cars lined up in the parking lot. It was cold even. It was kind of misty snowing by the time we made it back because of course we ate a team meal and then we went to Andy's. They had to get some Andy's on the way home. But so there was tons of community members honking, and we had a police escort, fire engine escort. And then when the girls got off the bus, someone I don't even know still to this day who did it. They set off a bunch of fireworks. So we have these really cool pictures of the girls staring up at fireworks, holding their big first place trophy.
Well, I've been told by coaches and even some players that after you win a state title, the food tastes so much better. You sleep so much better. What has it been like for you uh, in all circles? Since the state championship, what's it been like?
I mean, it's still like I said earlier, it's just still a little surreal, like just hard to believe that we did that in so many ways. It just felt like we went out there and just had another game, which I know it wasn't. It was on this huge stage, but we kind of didn't talk about it being this monumental. We just were like, hey, we're going to do our job. We're going to go win another game. And so that's the first thing I told the girls, like when we got back, I said, I feel like I need to be prepping you and being like, hey, we have practice tomorrow, take tomorrow off, but we got practice. And one of the girls said, there's no one else to play, coach. We're done. There's no one else to play. I'm like, I know. It's so odd that season ended. We were just on such a high.
Very good. Well, coach, I greatly appreciate you being generous here with your time. I know it's spring break, you're off, and maybe next week we'll get some of the young ladies in and have them talk about their experiences.
Yeah, definitely. I'd love for you to get to talk to them, and I'm sure I can get them not so nervous to talk on camera.
Hey, they got a state championship.
That's right. Yeah, they can't say anything wrong, right?
Yeah, you bet. Coach
All
Jenny
right.
Talbert, Fairgrove Lady Eagles, Class 3 state champions. And you're watching the Missouri Sports Network at MissouriSportsNetwork.com, where everyone has a home field advantage. And as always, the Missouri State Highway Patrol reminds us to take that 3 seconds and buckle up. It's 3 seconds that could save your life. Be safe, be smart, and be here tomorrow.